Hi all, this is Allmighty and welcome to this video. In this video we are going to be covering positions where we have two pawns on one side and one pawn on the other side. Of course, don't worry, this doesn't mean that we are stopping the series stories about masters, it's just we want to pull in also one video about the endgame from time to time. So okay, let's start. This is one of the possible positions that you can encounter in these kinds of endgames, and here the main idea is actually to sacrifice the pawn to actually promote the other pawn, which is far away from the opposite side's king, to the queen. So, as we all know, in this position, if those two pawns wouldn't be on the board, then this is a drawn endgame, since black king can maintain opposition, and that is enough for him to get a draw. But in this case, since there are pawns here, we can actually use that to our advantage. This pawn is far away from this pawn, and we can use him as a sacrifice so that black king, when captures him, we can bring our white king towards the black pawn, capture him, move out of the way, and promote our pawn to a queen. So let's start. E6 natural move, king e7, king e5. So like when black is maintaining opposition. King to e8, king to f6. He brings the king into opposition, and now we go king to g6. And the reason is, if we just push, then we would be ending up in a stalemate. But now when we go away, black wants to come to this pawn to capture it. We capture on h6, capture on e6, king g7, and we have reached one of the critical squares of this pawn. So g7, the other would be g8, and yeah, this is a winning position for white. If we go back, for example, here, if black plays here, then yeah, we don't care. We just capture the pawn, and we can even do it like this. And if black comes here, we can also push this one. So this is also winning endgame. So in a sense, black cannot go out of this position. So let's move on to the next position here. Then we have a different idea. So as we can see, we don't want to sacrifice this pawn and go for this pawn, because essentially we don't have time to go on the critical squares of this pawn. We would rather use the other idea, which is stalemate the black king, and now use the enough tempos that you have with your pawn to actually go out of the opposition. So this is also an idea that you can use in some other positions. If you can count the tempos possible for the opponent and your tempos, then you can see if you maybe can use that to your advantage and essentially go out of the opposition, and then after win the game. So now there are two options that black can do. He can play h6 or h5. So first, if he plays h5, we play h3. Now he has to play h4, and we move the king. Now he goes out, and we are winning this game. The other thing he can play is h6. Then we play h4, and when he plays h5, again we go out of the opposition. He moves, and then we promote to a queen. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next position here. One also common idea is that we don't want to stalemate the black king in this kinds of positions. So king to c7, king to c8 would result in a stalemate, because black king doesn't have a square to go to. So we rather sacrifice the pawn. So we play c6 here. Black can play king to b8, but after c7 he has to go back, and this is checkmate. So he would definitely rather capture the pawn. And now we don't capture the pawn, we can play king to c7. And when he pushes the pawn, b7, promoting to a queen, and this is checkmate. Next position. Okay, so I'm covering a lot of different positions now. This is a very broad endgame, and I will be going to doing it in two parts. So don't worry, we'll be covering a lot of it and also repeating some stuff so that you get a hang of it better. Here in this position, we have a common use case where the pawns are connected, and that one pawn cannot really be pushed right away because the black pawn is preventing the square where he can go to. So we have to use another idea. We use here the idea of triangulation. So we move king to d5, go out of the opposition, and now black has actually maybe two reasonable options. I mean, one is really reasonable and the other is just, you know, go into a position. So let me show you first this one. Here we just push f6 because now the king has gone far away from these pawns to actually do anything. Now if black captures, we just push g7 and next move it is a queen, so this is an easy win for white. If black moves to e8, for example, then we just capture the pawn and these pawns cover these squares and the black king cannot come closer, and we also promote to queen. So as you can see, king to d7 wouldn't be a good move, so the other move, which I called reasonable, is king to f6. And now we move king to e4. King to g5 doesn't make sense because we just push the king forward and the black king cannot actually come nearer anymore. We just go around and capture the pawn, so king to e7. And now we are in the initial position, but with one big difference. Now black is first to move, and we use that to our advantage. So for example here, if black plays king to e8, for example, we just push him into a position. If he would play king to f8, then again we would push him like this in a diagonal position. The one thing we want to do is put him in a position, because now if he goes d8, we just go here and capture the pawn, and if he goes here, then we are going towards the position that we had in the previous position, previous situation. So king to g8 only move, and now we are pushing him to a corner, and now we are like in that situation but on the other side of the board. Now we push f6, as we said, king f7 and king f8 is stalemate. He captures the pawn, and yeah, this is essentially the same thing. Here we have a similar setup like in the previous situation, where those are two connected pawns, and the opposite side pawn is actually guarding the square where the pawn can actually go to. But in this case, the power of triangulation works, but black doesn't have to necessarily go for it. So if king to f4, king to d5, like in previous situation, would win the game for white. King to e3, again triangulation, and now black is first to move, and if he goes somewhere behind, we just follow him with opposition. So also king to d7 is king to f5, and if he goes to king to f6, now even d5 works, and this is also winning the game for white. But black doesn't need to go to d5 here, he goes to f6 and he maintains opposition, because now d5 doesn't work for white. If black captures, he is in time to capture this pawn before he goes to a queen. So this is a drawn endgame. So white doesn't really have much choice here. If he plays king to g4, black can just play king to e6. And white doesn't want to go g5 here, just like maybe to go around, because yeah, here king to d5, black even wins this game. He picks up the pawns, and yeah, white wouldn't want to do that. So here, black goes king to e6, and now king to f4. Don't fall for the trick. Don't go now king to d5, because yeah, then like triangulation from a couple of moments ago, just go king to f6, and this is a drawn endgame. Here in the next position, we don't want to push c5 immediately, because then yeah, even distant opposition works for black, and this is a drawn endgame. Rather, we want to give an opposition to the black king and now push him around, and when it's the right time, then push c5. Now here king to d6, king to f5, black cannot come closer because of the pawns. If he himself pushes c5, then we just push d5, and when the pawn is in front of this pawn, then it is much easier for the white side, which I'm going to be showing you in the next situation. But okay, just trust me on this is much easier to win with the side who has the pawn, which is actually a passed pawn in this case. So black actually goes to opposition diagonally. Now king to e5, king to e7, and now c5. Unnecessary tempo, because now black needs to go on this side, because if he goes king f7, then we just capture the pawn. He goes on d7, and now king f6. Black cannot go here, he needs to go back. We push him into opposition, and essentially yeah, this is something. Now he cannot even defend the pawn, he has to move away. We capture the pawn, and with two pawns up, this is an easy winnable endgame. And okay, One last position that I want to show you, yeah, so of course, so here we have connected pawns, but the pawn is not now on b3, for example. He is on b5 and he is in front of this pawn. It is a passed pawn. What does this mean for black? That essentially he cannot go under the, so on the 4th rank or under it, because we can just then push the pawn and win the game. Here we don't want to play king to c5 right away because of this little trick. Maybe king to b7, b6, and now black king goes to a6. Because in this situation, if we play king to c6, this is a stalemate. We would have to sacrifice the pawn. He captures the pawn, and this is a drawn endgame because we are talking about rook pawn here. So instead of that, we first play king to d5, and now black can play, for example, either king to b6, but then, yeah, it goes something like this. King to c5, and we do something like this, you know, to push him out of the opposition, or he can go king to d7, maintain opposition on us until we push the pawn, give him a check. He goes behind the pawn. We maintain the opposition on our side, pick up the black pawn when he moves, and with 2 pawns, this is an easy winning endgame. I'm just going to quickly show you. So this is just one of the ways how you can win it. So play here like this, and now, okay, if he plays like this, for example, we can even do something like this. Sacrifice this pawn, he needs to take it. And now, yeah, there are many ways how you can win in this endgame with 2 pawns up. This is one of them. So yeah, if you want to practice, just practice doing it somehow differently. Okay, so this is pretty much it for this video. As I've said, this pawn endgame is a much broader subject, so I'm going to be covering it in 2 parts. So if you're interested, I'm probably going to be uploading next part in the next couple of days. And yeah, so that being said, I would like to thank you for watching this video, and I will see you next time.